You guys thought it was going to be a nice, easy, chill day. Obviously, not with what's going on with Bill O'Brien. We get the number one corner in the country to commit to Ohio State. Great day. And a kid from Bama. So thank God Nick Saban is gone because it makes it a lot easier to go down there and poach. And poaching we are. So we're going to get into all of that. As always, thank you guys for making this a great show. You guys make it a great show. The reason this show is great is because of you guys. So thank you guys. So with that being said, if you enjoy this content, please click the like button. That is huge. A little thumbs up. Click subscribe and also click that little alert bell. I know a lot of you guys are doing that because you guys are right in the lobby when we go live. And we appreciate you guys being ready to rock as soon as we start up. Somebody get ready to this Nevada, every time we think we might not have something to talk about, like 50 things happen, in the last 3 hours, phones blowing up. We broke it on Buckeye Scoop, what was going on with Bill O'Brien. Get into the latest with Bill O'Brien and the Boston College coaching search.
Well, for the record, when the first things came out about Bill O'Brien and linking him to the coaching search, I was more than skeptical hippo. It just did not make any sense to me why he would take that job. And I'll just go back through the reasons why I don't think it makes sense. It's a lousy job. I don't think you can win there. I think you're a doorstop in the ACC. You said it's like Notre Dame without the prestige. Just lots of no recruiting, local recruiting base, just lots of reasons why it's a very difficult job. And it just didn't make sense to me why Bill O'Brien would want to go to a job like that when he seemed more like an NFL guy, more like a guy that would come in here to Ohio State, blow it out with his offense, and then jump onto some open NFL job down the road. Now, with the information we get today is that Bill O'Brien has let Ohio State know that if he's offered, he's taking the BC job, and that in real time he was cleaning out his office. Now, what does that mean? I have not gotten the final word that it said that he's taken the job. I have not gotten the final word that he's been offered the job. But I did get the word that he's cleaning out his office. Now, that could just mean he wanted to give it a little spring cleaning. Maybe he's moving into Ryan Day's office. They're going to be office buddies. Maybe he's going to work out of his car. I mean, there's lots of things that could be here. But somehow he's cleaning out his office. And I think that probably means he's going on to BC. Now, I called an agent friend of mine who handles BC and does a lot of business with BC. And he told me that there hasn't been a final decision done, that there's 3 names that were the finalists for the BC job: Bill O'Brien, Paul Christ, and Al Washington. And when he said Al Washington, I was like, what? what? Al Washington? And he goes, yeah, Al Washington. And so his perspective on it is that it's not done yet, that there's talking and there's lots of discussions going on, and there's 3 very viable candidates. But you've got Bill O'Brien cleaning out his office at the Ohio State offices. Maybe it's preemptive. Maybe he's doing it just in case he gets it and doesn't want to run back in there to grab his stuff or whatever it is. Don't know. But just giving you guys the information in real time. So I've gone from like skeptical hippo about it to, man, it sounds kind of chalky that it's going to happen. And not sure how I feel about it. I really want to absorb. First of all, I want to see if it's real before I make any final comments about how I feel about it, because I think it's unfair to talk about hypotheticals. But the very real situation we are in right now is it looks like he might be leaving. And, that's kind of where we're at on Sunday. That's the Sunday night update.
Yeah, I mean, he's from Boston. Obviously, there's a lot. His son has a very difficult disorder. He's 21 years old, but requires basically constant attention. So, it's a tough decision. But he did go to Alabama. He did go to New England. I mean, he's been Texas, or the Houston Texans, excuse me. So, it's an interesting decision for him to make because BC was 7-6 last year. I mean, that's about as good as you're going to get there when you're playing Florida State and Clemson and Miami and teams that are just better than you. And the biggest thing that makes it an even worse job is they're Jesuits. They are tight with the purse strings when it comes to the old NIL game. So that job might have been way better 5 years ago than it is now. But, when you got to compete against, some of these other schools, it's going to be really tough. And you're right. When you're taking over one of these rosters, it's totally at risk every year. It's scary because they don't have the the foundation or a great NIL collective that can keep building um, the coffers and keep the roster intact. This is a type of school that will get poached, and I think that's something that's it's tough in modern football. And this has been a weird coaching cycle. Like Liam Cohen was up for our job, and now he just took the job at Tampa Bay after pledging his allegiance to Kentucky. You've got Cliff Kingsbury with the Raiders. And again, a lot of these are college guys, or they have been college guys going to the NFL, sniffing around. For Bill O'Brien, like I just even if you just did a 1 year commitment and you said, okay, I'm going to run this offense for a year, we're going to go win the national championship, then like your star, I feel like you can kind of raise your star up. It kind of reminds me of when Nick Saban did like his little, he'd hire analysts like Lane Kiffin and Steve Sarkisian and guys that were kind of out of a job. But he's not an analyst here. He's our OC. He's probably going to make $2.5 million a year. But I just think why would you leave for Boston College? I know he's from there. I get that it's home, but man, like it's just got to be miserable to know that the roster just isn't going to ever be there. And in the NIL world, it's going to be even worse. The Al Washington thing is interesting because we had some intel that that's who the players want is Al Washington. Al Washington played at Boston College. He was a defensive tackle there. He coached there. He's kind of had this weird rise where he went from he was at like Cincinnati, then he was at Michigan. Then he's one of the only, I don't know how many coaches, him and Greg Madison, they jumped from Michigan to Ohio State the next year. I don't think I've ever seen that before. And then Ryan Day, fired him and he went to Notre Dame to be Marcus Freeman's D-line coach. And I was joking. I was like, he's one of my favorite coaches because he forgot to put a defensive end on the field the last 2 plays of the game. And probably the only reason we beat Notre Dame last year, because we ran right where the guy was supposed to be at, and there's a big open space, and we ran right into the end zone. So I don't know. I think that if it's between Al and Bill O'Brien, and you're the athletic director at Boston College, who's a relatively new guy, because Martin Jarman, who's at UCLA now, used to be there. Do you want to take the splashier NFL name with Bill O'Brien, a guy who likely won't be there longer than 2-3 years, or do you want a guy that played there? But it'd be his first job in Al Washington. I mean, Al Washington's never been a coordinator before. So you're going to take a D-line coach and make him your head coach. And that's a significant jump versus Bill O'Brien, who's coached, he's taken NFL teams to the playoffs, let alone, coaching at Penn State. Again, I give him a lot of credit because when he did at Penn State in 12, he was 8-4 and he got coach of the year over Urban, who went 12-0 because of the sanctions they were dealing with and how many roster spots were taken when they reduced their scholarships. So I don't know. I think it's going to be, they're not just going to negotiate with one guy. So it'll be interesting to see how they play these guys back and forth. If there's a second round of interviews, because, with modern coaching searches now with this portal and like when, if I'm an athletic director and I see what has just happened at Alabama, how, they lose Caleb Downs, it was like, you use your best player to Ohio State, maybe because you didn't act fast enough. Every day that your roster is in flux with this 30-day temporary window that gets open when a head coach leaves, it's terrifying because you could have 25 guys walk out the door and get real money, get like a 6 or 7 figure deal to go play elsewhere, like their right tackle that we really like. So I don't know. Nevada, talk a little bit about how NIL has kind of changed the metrics, the NIL and this temporary portal window is, it really makes it tough on an athletic director because, they want to do the classic search firm and 2 rounds of interviews and negotiations. But man, like every day that goes by where you look like a rudderless ship, man, it is tough for these kids to stay home because not only can they leave and go to like an Ohio State or a Georgia or whatever, but they also get paid to go. So, like, if Boston College doesn't have an NIL program and Ohio State's got a juggernaut NIL program, very, very scary. But your thoughts on coaching searches in the modern world of that 30-day transfer portal window is completely crazy.
Well, I think you raised about 19 good points in that. So let me jump on a few of them. One, I for a job like BC, to me, Al Washington more fits the profile of what's they're going to be because, I've always said that with NIL now and with the way that basically BC and these other schools are almost like farm clubs for the big dogs. And you're going to get young guys. You're going to get younger, inexperienced guys that are going to be willing to be there for a while. That's going to be kind of the outline for these college coaches at these B level, B plus level programs. And so to me, Al Washington fits. And again, I want to make it really clear, going back to our original point on this, I do not have that Bill O'Brien is gone. I don't have that. And that's, I'm definitely not meaning to say it. I do have that he's cleaning out his office. So I'm not sure what that means, but I just want to be crystal clear on this, because to me, I still can't get around the fact that I understand that he's got a terminally ill son, and having dealt with terminally ill patients in our previous lifetime in healthcare, I don't understand it the same way somebody would if it was my kid. Can't even imagine that. But Bill's been moving around a lot, and this is not a new condition for his son. His son was born this way, so he's managed to navigate through moves to Houston, as you said, for years, and then Alabama for 2 more years after that. So I'm not sure why he would be all of a sudden bound to Boston unless there was some new therapeutic or something that was extending his life that needed him to stay there. And then if that's, I don't understand why he would have accepted the Ohio State job in the first place. So look, this could all be much ado about nothing. Al Washington could be the player's coach. He could be the more economical solution for BC. And for BC's, they are cheap, and it is going to come down to economics, and it is going to come down to the guy that's willing to operate in a very limited NIL environment, as you aptly pointed out. So tomorrow we could hear Al Washington's head coach and Bill's back in his brand new clean office. Hey guys, I just cleaned the office last night. No, nothing to see here, but I just wanted to get a fresh start and clean the office. So I don't know, but no, NIL has changed things. The coaching portal thing has changed things. I think coaches are going to get younger. I think you're going to see more and more and more guys that are jumping to head coaching jobs that have never been coordinators before, or they've never called a side of the ball before. And, to really make this thing even weirder, to me, that brings guys like Brian Hartline into the mix for these college jobs, because, you say, hey, he's never called offense for. I don't think it matters anymore. I think in college football right now, I don't think it matters right now. I think recruiting is paramount, and offensive recruiting specifically. So it's just, we're just got to be dodging bullets and just try to enjoy every day. But today's been a crazy one. Hey, we haven't even gotten to the number 1 5-star quarterback committee today. That was a pretty good piece of news. So
yeah, I mean, it's hard because the O'Brien thing kind of dumps everything, but I mean, we got Naheem Alford today, who's probably the best corner in the entire country. He's a superstar, and we got him out of Alabama, which is that never happens. So now it's we get Quinshon Judkins, and now we get Naheem Alford. It's the floodgates are opening, and those floodgates were dammed up during the Nick Saban era. There was no flooding of guys going up to Columbus from Bama. But yeah, I think you made a great point when you talk about it's going to really become a young man's game in college football, because you know what Ryan Day's number 1 job is right now? NIL fundraising, calling people. Hey, we need this to retain the roster. Hey, this kid might be coming. Hey, we got to get these deals done to retain the roster. And again, he's really good at it. He's done a really good job at it. I mean, you look at some of these guys that we got. Imagine how you would feel if we couldn't outbid the Georgia Bulldogs for Caleb Downs. I'm not saying that's the only reason he came, but we blew them out of the water with the NIL offer that we gave them. So again, some people hate NIL. I love NIL more than anybody in the world, because now we have Caleb Downs as our adjuster safety, and he's the best safety in the country, might be the best defensive player in the country. And it's because Ryan Day was, he was working the phones. He was calling the mega players, the mega donors. He was working, and again, he's on the road. You want to talk about what does heck look like? These guys on the road during January recruiting, they're flying from Georgia to Florida to Houston to LA. I mean, it is to Chicago, in 5 days. It's every day and they don't go there just to go and eat In-N-Out Burger and chill at the pool. They're there to go see 8 high schools and then scramble back to the airport to get out of there. And these assistants, I mean, they're not flying private jet. They're not on the PJ like Ryan Day is. These guys are flying Southwest or Frontier or whatever they can book them on. And it sucks. Now, again, you got to put on a good face and put on some good Axe body spray, 'cause you're probably stinking when you're flying on this flight. Then you get to drive all over Houston. It's hot down there. But, and then the whole time Ryan, because Ryan always has a driver. The other coaches got to get in their rental cars to drive by themselves. But, Ryan the whole time is calling, major NIL donors. He's working the phones. He's trying to, hey, we need your help. We need you to help support us. We need you, how can we help? What can we do? So, I mean, and again, like that's, something you give Ryan a lot of credit for is he's cutting edge, man. And again, when NIL wasn't where he wanted it to be, he personally put the hammer down to get it there. And he worked with the foundation. And again, people are in awe of the NIL deals that we've gotten done, the roster retention. It's just been like an unbelievable run. And even like the Bill O'Brien thing, he's got to do what's best for him. All these coaches are as loyal as their options. But, I love where the program's headed, regardless of the offensive coordinator. So I'm not going to let that rain on my parade. I got a bunch of super chats Nevada. We'll bang through these real quick. Appreciate you guys. If you guys have questions, fire up a super chat. As always, we love answering what you guys want to know. So it's always fun to do these. Karis Washington, thank you for being a Scoop Ultra member. Thank you for always being on every night. So I appreciate you, my man. And I love your first name. Me and my old lady are looking for some K names, so Karis is a really cool one. If Bill leaves, what does that do to the morale of the offense? I mean, it's hard to like fall in love with somebody that you don't really know. I mean, you met him a couple times, and I'm sure it was exciting. But you got to remember, like these coaches have been on the road recruiting. I'm not sure if he's been, because Corey Dennis was still technically under contract, I think, until February 1st or January 31st. So, I don't think O'Brien hit the road at all. But it's just part of the gig, man. I mean, we've seen coaches come and go, and that's the thing about like me and Nevada joke. I mean, we've been through how many head coaches and how many different assistants and coordinators. I mean, it's when you're in coaching at a high level, college or the NFL, you rent the whistle and you rent the little sweatshirt or the little windbreaker or whatever, and then you give it back. You don't get to keep it forever. Nobody's anywhere in coaching for very long. I mean, Bill Belichick just got fired, for God's sakes. The greatest coach in the history of the NFL. So, but what are your thoughts on that, Nevada? Does it do anything to the more? I don't know how you get upset when you barely, know the guy. He's been here for 2 weeks or whatever. Like, I mean, I don't know. Your thoughts on that?
Well, look, I think in a perfect world, you don't have a lot of change or upheaval. You just kind of go straight smooth sailing through spring football into summer, into the fall, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Having said that, if you're gonna, if you're gonna do something like this, at least have it be quick. So, the worst thing, much worse than this would be having doing this in June, July, August, something like that. So if he's gonna do it now. Like you said, the kids haven't. It's not like they've built some lifelong connections to him. The only thing it affects is who's the next guy. And options are lessening because less guys are now available because other people like Liam Cohn, guys that we're talking to, have taken other jobs. So my only thing on this is this just puts it on Ryan Day to go out there and immediately find a replacement. As for the players, again, it's not optimal, but it's far from a mortal blow. It's far from this is going to ruin the season, but it's not, this is not the way you want it to go down. And again, I in the overabundance of caution, I want to make sure I say this. I'm not 100% sure it is going down. I am not 100% sure it is going down. No. But the flashing signs are flashing right now, and that's what we want to do. We want to just be able to talk to you guys on these podcasts, let you guys kind of decipher the information the way that you want to. But I'm not 100% sure it's going down, but I do think it is. I think it is.
Yeah, and there's everything's fluid. Again, like this, modern football right now, man, it's tough. You see names get linked to coaching jobs and coordinator jobs, and so it's like real time. It's just like we get stuff in real time, and we dealt with one a few years ago where a guy accepted a job as a coordinator in the SEC and then changed his mind. Like he said, he did it, and then he couldn't sign the facts, and then he did. So this was happening literally in real time, and I was like, so he accepted it. Oh, he did accept it. Okay, so now he's staying. Like there's a million reasons why people do this. I just think that he's crazy to take that BC job because I think it's a terrible job. Sean, thank you for the 10. Appreciate you, brother. Now that Day has the firing on or the program firing on all cylinders, NIL recruiting, Saban and Harbaugh gone. Do you think he'll stick around longer than some expect after enduring the last couple seasons? Well, it's a double-edged sword, man. I'm telling you, like when you get a roster like this and you get Caleb Downs, man, the only thing you can do to receive salvation is win the national championship. So it's like, if you're too much is given, much is expected. But I think that it helps when he figured out really quickly, hey, this NIL thing could be a game breaker for Ohio State, and he's gotten really good at it, along with the foundation. And we go out and get Caleb Downs, we go out and get Quinshon Judkins, we go out, we keep Trey Henderson, we keep Jack Sawyer, JT Tuimoloau. I mean, I think if you've got a program like Ohio State operating at like a high level like this, like I think it's as good of a job as there is. Honestly, it's a great city. Kids love it. Kids like Jamie French think Ohio State's just an awesome spot. Like there's a lot of cachet nationally about Ohio State's brand right now, and it resonates with kids in South Florida, which if you're cool in South Florida, you're cool anywhere. So it's like I think Ryan's done a great job of that. Obviously Brian Hartline's been a big part of that, but the foundation and the NIL stuff has been huge too. So these kids are they want to have a good lifestyle, they want to go to the NFL, and Ohio State can basically achieve everything. We just gotta get a couple more wins at the end of the year, and then it'll basically be perfect. Nevada, your thoughts on, with all of the new kind of infrastructure that's been put into place, do you think it keeps Ryan Day at Ohio State longer?
I hope so. I mean, I hope it does. I worry, but I'm a worrier, but I do worry about the just the demands on these guys, and the way that the NFL jobs are configured so differently. It's really a place where you can go and just coach football. You're not having to be the general manager. You're not having to be the fundraiser. You're not having to be the social director. You're not having to be the director of public relations. I mean, you can just go coach football. And I think for a lot of these guys, that are, whether they're offensive minded, defensive minded, or whatever, that's attractive. So I really do hope and pray that Ryan does become that alpha. Does kind of assume that crown as kind of the king of college football, and just goes on a long run. And I'm certainly desirous of that happening. I'm fearful that it won't, but I'm hopeful that it will.
Yeah, I mean, it's like again, I was worried about the New England job. I'm just gonna be honest with you, because again, maybe it was ever in play, but if there was one team that I thought would, it made me nervous, it was New England. If Belichick parted ways with Robert Kraft, which happened. And they went with Gerard Mayo, which I think is insane, because they've got a top 3 pick, and they're going to end up with Drake May or the kid from LSU in all likelihood. So they're going to need a QB developer. And if I'm Robert Kraft, I'm calling Ryan Day and saying, hey, what do you need to come home? And let's develop a quarterback and go back to what we were when we had Brady, instead of what they have been the last couple of years with Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi or whatever. So, but, again, I think that the NFL, like, there's a reason why these guys are – Liam Cohen's jumping. Like, these guys are all jumping to because the league schedule is way better. It's way easier. Obviously, the NFL, the biggest thing is in the NFL, man, every week you're playing, like Urban said, like every week you play Alabama. You don't get to play Western Kentucky and Youngstown State and Akron. And, so you don't get to just roll the helmets out 10 times a year and just whoop the crap out of whoever you're playing. But the calendar is way better. I'm telling you. A lot of these guys like DeJuan Jones and some of these guys, they're living this NFL life right now. And they're like, this is amazing. Like, we don't have 6 a.m. workouts. We're not getting destroyed by Mickey Marotti every day. Like, they get literally like 4 months off right after the season where they don't have to do anything. Now, they work out because they got to be professionals. They want to keep their jobs, but they're not getting the screws put to them, which is hilarious. Tiny Rick, thanks for the deuce. Give it to the Akron guy. Joe Moorhead is a guy that everyone wants. I don't know if he wants to leave the Akron job, though. I mean, he's a head coach, but I think these MAC coaches are dying to get out of the MAC. Like, Jason Candle would die to become the OC at Ohio State, because those MAC schools are just literal feeding grounds for bigger schools. Because no kid, no kid dreams of playing in the MAC. They all want to play at Ohio State. They all want to play at Bama, Florida State, wherever. So those MAC programs are getting pilfered, man. It's bad. Josh Dillon, thanks for the 5. If Bob goes, who is available? Someone from the NFL, Jason Candlestill. I mean, I would think Jason Candle would be on the list. I mean, obviously Liam Cohen was on the list, or it could be some mystery candidate. I don't know. I mean, this is still it's still a hypothetical situation, because maybe BC goes with Al Washington. Because again, like if you game out the pros and cons to Bill O'Brien versus Al Washington, obviously Bill O'Brien's a much bigger name than Al Washington. He's the guy's, highest level, Bama. We've gone through his resume ad nauseum the last week. But is he going to be a dynamo NIL guy? Probably not. Al Washington, younger, probably hungrier than Bill O'Brien is, just because this would be his first head coaching job, which frankly would terrify me if I was an athletic director, because hiring a guy who's never coordinated a defense or an offense to be your head coach is completely insane, in my opinion. But, he's a good recruiter, and he's a guy that played there. And, if you had to put a gun to my head and you say, Kirk, who do you think is going to stay at Boston College longer between Bill O'Brien and Al Washington? I'd probably fall out of my chair because I'd be laughing so hard, because, of course, Bill O'Brien's not going to be there long. He's going to be dying to get back in the NFL. But what are your thoughts on that, Nevada? Other names available? I mean, again, I think Ryan's going to want to take this one slow, because this reminds me of in 2012, Urban Meyer hired Bill Sheridan to be his cornerback coach. Bill Sheridan has been in the NFL for a long time. His son's actually the tight ends coach at Bama now. He was at Washington. He played quarterback at Michigan. One of the worst quarterbacks in the history of the rivalry. He was terrible. I think he played that 2008 game and they got destroyed. But Bill Sheridan was with us on staff for like a week or 2 weeks. Like Urban hired him. And then, no, it's even better. Urban, no, this is how it went. Urban had Taver Johnson retained. Then Taver took off. Then Sheridan came in for like 3 weeks or a month. And then he took off. He went to Tampa Bay to be Shiano's defensive coordinator. And then Urban was like, I'm going to take my time now because I've had 2 guys leave on me in like a month. So that was like egg on his face. And then that's how he got Kerry Combs. Tim Hinton was like, hey, you should have Kerry Combs. You should call Kerry Combs because he's at Cincinnati and he's dynamic and whatever. And, so he comes up and interviews with Urban, and boom, Kerry Combs is our cornerbacks coach in 2012. But yeah, that was wild because we lost 2 cornerback coaches in like the first month of the Urban Meyer tenure. And they were probably just terrified. But Bill Sheridan got an offer to be a DC in the NFL, so you can't fault the guy. Like with Bill O'Brien, if you get offered to be a head coach in college football instead of a coordinator in college football, like you can't fault the guy for taking it. It's not a lateral move. But what are your thoughts on that, Nevada? Other OCs available? Chip Kelly, any thoughts on that?
Well, I just think let's just take a step back and recognize what differences are going on right now. You've got major college head coaches. Before, the path used to be major college head coach or college head coach, go on to become NFL, potentially be an NFL coach somewhere or at a bigger school, or that was the ladder. Now you've got coaches from Boston College leaving to become coordinators in the NFL. So there's dynamic number one. Second dynamic you've got is, used to be, you'd move from Bowling Green, and then you'd go to Bowling Green, you go to Utah, and you go to Utah to Florida, kind of work your way up the thing. Now you've got, coaches from the MAC leaving to become coordinators at bigger schools. So, it's a completely different path for these guys. I think that's going to have, profound impact on the speed. Because I don't know if Ryan can go slow on this. I think he's got to go fast. I think he's got to go out there and grab guys when they're available, if they're available, and where they're available. So I don't know if he's got the especially in 2024 being a national championship year. I think he's got to move. I think he's got to move decisively. I'm again, assuming this happens, assuming Bill doesn't come in tomorrow with the old Ohio State T-shirt, the big hat on, and he's like, "Oh, just kidding, man. I'm here. I'm ready to go to work. Let's go, guys. Let's go." And look, that could happen. So, assuming that doesn't happen, I think he'll move fast. I don't think this will be a slow process because I think it's got to be fast. I think he's got to get somebody else back in here, and it could be from anywhere. It could be, like you said, it could be a college head coach right now that he could get. It could be, one of the names we talked about, or maybe he goes to the NFL and grabs somebody hot. You got to remember, the NFL season technically is still going on right now. We've still got the Super Bowl to be played in a week, and but I think Meyer will move quick. Or Meyer, I think Day will move quickly.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating because again, I think Bill O'Brien's up against do they prefer Al? Or maybe there's a mystery candidate. But Al's the guy that they want to talk to again. So I mean, he obviously did good in the interview. So again, it's a very you know I think it's really hard if you're the athletic director at this point to realize that your head coach left to go be a coordinator in the NFL, and now you're going to hire a guy who's been a coordinator in the NFL, and he probably wants to be a coordinator in the NFL. And if you hire him as your head coach, he's probably going to be dying to get back to the NFL versus Al Washington, who would kill to be the head coach at Boston College, his alma mater. So, but he's probably not as polished. He's probably not ready to go the way Bill O'Brien would be, and wouldn't know how to run a program. But I think that's part of the decision making, because I think if you're kind of like a jilted lover and you just lost your head coach to being a coordinator, like, is that going to happen again next year with Bill O'Brien? Because then that's a total disaster of a hire, and I think that's what they're really weighing, because that's real. Will 8282 news on the team up north, players leaving. Still fluid, man. I'm telling you, they're starting to fill that staff out. They promoted their one guy to be the OC. They brought in a 1AA coach to be their tight ends coach. They moved the tight ends coach to O-line. No big splashy hires though, which is interesting. But I honestly think that the portal after spring ball is going to be the one to watch for Michigan players, because by then they'll have an idea about what's going on. The NCAA has been thrashing people lately, and I don't think it's going to change with Michigan. Your thoughts on that, Nevada?
I just think it's still early. I think those guys are still. I mean, I don't think. I know those guys are still fielding offers, having their guys kind of put the feelers out to see where they could possibly land, taking a look at depth charts, and conversations, that stuff are going on literally every single day. So that's something that could pop. I've said this a million times, but how does it happen? A little at first, then all at once, and I think that's what happened with Michigan.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think like once, it's kind of like once a couple guys take off, then all of a sudden, man, it's like, man, I do not want to play with a bunch of these guys when all of my boys are gone, and that could really happen. David Dickerhoof, I wonder are you from Massillon? There was a bunch of Dickerhoofs up in Massillon. Let him clean out his office. I will hire someone else immediately. Let him go. None of the players will trust him moving forward. Well, I don't know. I mean, it's still very fluid, but I also think that that's part of the world, man. I mean, some of these guys, when they get to the NFL, they'll have a new offensive coordinator every year or a new position coach every year. It's just, that's part of the profession. Like, the only thing constant in coaching is change. Like, guys are going to go through different line coaches, different tight ends coaches. There's going to be a new quarterbacks coach. I mean, Corey Dennis was there, and, on paper, people are like, well, when he was the quarterback coach, we had Justin Fields, CJ Stroud, and then we just had Kyle McCord. So you'd think that'd be enough to keep your job, but obviously not. So they moved on from Corey, and then they've got, to make this hire. So I don't know. I think that the thing you learn about college football is that, outside of like the Jim Tressel era, where he had Jim Haycock and Jim Bowman as his two coordinators for his entire tenure as the head coach, that never happens. Or excuse me, I misspoke. He had Jim Bowman as his offensive coordinator. He had Haycock for the majority of the tenure, but he had D'Antonio to start it off. So I apologize. I misspoke. But yeah, these guys all want the big chair. These guys all want to be head coaches. So if they got to progress their career and go be a coordinator somewhere and then go be a head guy somewhere, then that's kind of the way it goes. But I think that this is going to be fascinating because this athletic director this is a big hire now. I mean, you just got left at the altar and you got to keep this roster together. And do you want to hire another guy that's dying to get to the NFL like Bill O'Brien is? I don't know. We're going to find out. All right. CW2, the second, thank you for the 5. If Bill O'Brien leaves, what's our next move? Best candidates. Well, we talked about, Jason Cannell makes a lot of sense to me. He's at Toledo. He's run that program. I think that the attributes you want is a guy that can run the offensive staff room. The way Jim Knowles walked into that defensive staff room, and everybody knows he's the guy. He's the one they all look to run the defense. Like, there's no lack of leadership in that room. I think there's a lack of leadership in the offensive room from the offensive coordinator standpoint, because Brian's not calling the plays, so it's Brian Hartline's not calling the plays, so it's really tough to be the leader when you're not really signing your name to the game script because Ryan Day is still, the offensive coordinator. He just moved into Urban Meyer's office instead of staying in the quarterback office. But I think Candle makes sense. It'll be interesting. Cliff Kingsbury is still free agents. A guy that I heard this and I know it's going to be crazy and it won't make sense. The guy that would be the perfect guy is Chip Kelly. Now, Chip Kelly wants like $3.5 million. He wants some crazy number to be the OC. But I think him and Martin Jarman are button heads at UCLA because he is telling everybody in the universe that he wants to get out of there. And so I don't know what's going on there, but most guys aren't, doing this kind of reverse move where you go from being a head coach in a college to being a coordinator in the NFL or even a coordinator at a better program. But Chip Kelly is. And again, like if he wanted to help out, I know that it's completely crazy. I understand that you can see Kirk, you're nuts, whatever. But there wouldn't be a guy in this universe that would be a better fit for Ryan Day than Chip Kelly because that's his mentor. So if your mentor wants to come and sit in the second chair and kind of resurrect his coaching career, because he had Philadelphia ended up being a disaster. He had that 1 year in San Francisco as a disaster, but he's really well thought of by guys that are smart, like Urban Meyer, like Bill Belichick. So his concepts I think are great, but I just don't think UCLA is a very talented program. So it's hard to really get it cracking there when you just frankly don't have great players. But what's your thought, Nevada? Candidates we've kind of talked about that a little bit, but anything else on that one?
Well, I mean, it's funny because like the one name we don't talk about is the guy that's around and already in the program, and that's Joe Philbin. And Joe was a head coach in the NFL with the Dolphins, was a Super Bowl winning offensive coordinator with the Packers. I mean, this is a guy that's done it at a pretty high level, knows all the guys. Obviously, Ryan likes him. Been around the program, been there. Would Ryan turn to him? Would he be a guy that he turned to in this situation now that the Bill O'Brien thing went south? It is an interesting name, and it's just somebody to. I mean, I haven't asked you about it. We did talk about this in pre-show. What are your thoughts on him?
Well, I mean, he's got the ring with Rodgers, which was huge. And when I played in the early 2000s, he was the line coach at Iowa. And like back in the olden days, like everybody was obsessed with Iowa's offensive line. They had Robert Gallery and Eric Steinbach and all these guys. And like, why does Ohio State have all these big fat guys and like Iowa's got all these lean 260-pound tight ends that they put muscle onto and they become Robert Gallery? And I'm like, I don't know. Like I'm lean. I can't make everybody else lean. But like that was a guy that, we'd watch their film and like I watched Robert Gallery versus Ohio State probably 50 times in the offseason when I was getting ready for my second year because he was the guy. He won the Outland Trophy. He was second overall pick in the draft. Like so. And he was a little 250-pound tight end that grew into 320-pound left tackle, and that's kind of what I wanted to study. He's a little bit taller than I was, about 6'6", and I was 6'5", but I still that's what I studied because I was working on footwork and working on hand placement and working on all that. So that was Joe Philbin's stuff. I mean, he was the O-line coach then, and I know he could coach the line. I think that the hardest part for Joe Philbin is he's an analyst, so by definition, you can't coach on the field legally. Now, obviously at Ohio State, we have the biggest compliance department probably in the universe. So we get busted for stuff that most programs would just do. They'd have Joe Philbin out there coaching his head off, during practice. Like if we did that, you're going to get a visit from compliance. You're going to get written up. So, but I think he'd be interesting just because, he coached the Packers. Now it's been a while and he was a head coach in the league for the Dolphins. So I don't know. Like I have a lot of respect for him. I've watched his clinic tapes. I think he does a really good job. I don't know how long I'd want to say an analyst, man, because it drove. I was a quality control coach for 1 year in 2011, and it drove me absolutely crazy. I couldn't coach because I had to be a GA the next year so I could actually get my hands on these guys and coach them. Because when you have to stand there, it sucks. It's terrible. That'd be an interesting one, but I don't know if that would feel like a surrender move by Ryan versus But I mean, the good thing about Joe Philbin is he already knows the offense and he already knows the players. So there would be a lot more symmetry there, which would be great. Pooh Beard 12, appreciate you, my man. Thank you for being a Scoop Ultra member. Thank you for being a Buckeye Scoop member. You made some great threads today, some great posts. If you guys are not on our BuckeyeScoop.com message board, we break all of our news on that first. So we're usually on that all day. Then we get up here at 7 o'clock at night and we try to grind through an hour and a half or so with you guys to kick it with you guys. But if you guys like us on this, man, Buckeye Scoop is like, that is like, we're like the sharks in the ocean. It's awesome. So I'd love for you guys to join BuckeyeScoop.com. Poohbeard12, thank you for the 10. I love stuff like this. This is great. The year is 2036. Every NFL playoff team, except the Chiefs because they hate OSU, has at least one wide receiver and one DB from OSU. The other NFL teams are tanking so they can get their next first round Buckeye. Okay. That could happen. I mean, that's a lot. That's 13 years from now, man. That's a lot. I mean, 13 years ago was 2010, and Jim Tressel just won. Literally in 2010, 13 years ago, we had just won the Sugar Bowl. And Jim Tressel was, obviously he was up against it, but like, we just beat an SEC school and looked like Jim Tressel was still going to be able to keep his job. And then, the plane hit the side of the mountain. But that could happen. But I know if you think about where we've come in 13 years, we've had a lot of change at Ohio State in 13 years. So, because when you say something like the quarterback and the receiver, you assume Hartline and Tim Alton are there for 13 years. And I'd probably take the bet that they're probably going to be elsewhere just because that's how it works in coaching. But I'm going to enjoy everybody while they're here. Todd Doyle, thanks for the deuce. Big Ten SEC need to push for unlimited coaches. No, we do not want that. Maybe one or two, maybe go to 12. I don't think you want to go to the point where it's unlimited because I think that's just like a race. That's a death spiral to the bottom. Nevada, your thought on unlimited coaches? Because again, I know how, when there's some rule that gets put in like that, it's like it's just the abuse will be just absolutely crazy. But these coaches are also getting really expensive. I mean, these guys are making a lot of money now. Your thoughts on that?
Well, look, there's been a thing in front of the NCAA to expand the number of coaches by one. And that's been something that we actually had thought might be passed before this. But, as you mentioned, with the expense and not every, athletic program, not every, situation has got the money to do that. And so that's been the holdup. And so it's really doubtful that even that gets passed anytime soon, or certainly it's gone from almost a sure thing to questionable. So I think the idea that they'd move beyond that to unlimited seems really, really unlikely. Just because they're trying to create some sort of parity. They're trying to create some sort of financial sanity, and that's what they've kind of tried to do with this Big Ten SEC examination committee to kind of examine the issues that are before these big time schools and try to get some clarity on these items. And again, unlimited coaching would be a Pandora's box that I don't think they want to open.
Yeah, I totally agree. Tora, what's up, brother? Appreciate you, my man. Holding it down in the chat. Everybody can show Tora some love in the chat. He is the regulator, keeps the Michigan people gone. So he is my boy. Thank you for the 100, brother. Appreciate you, Kirk. What's good, my G? Stay golden and strapped up always. I appreciate it. That's my favorite. Shout out to my big homie Nevadabuck, and of course the Buckeye Scoop family in the chat, keeping it super litty. Love and respect. Tora is a godsend because I'm telling you, like, you guys understand running this show and then having to moderate the chat. You almost have to be like an octopus. So thank God for Tora because he's like, I want the wrench. Give me the wrench. It's like the game Clue where you like who killed the Michigan fan in the conservatory with the wrench. It was Tora. It wasn't Miss Peacock or Miss Scarlet or Colonel Mustard. So Tora, I literally love you. I appreciate you kicking it with us every night. You are the absolute best, as are all you guys. I love all you guys for kicking it with us. But Tora and I have gotten real close, and we talk a lot on the phone. But I appreciate you, my man, for becoming a huge part of the Scoop family. Nevada, your thoughts on our boy Tora?
I owe Tora.
I love it. Oh my God, I love it. He's the best, man. Appreciate you, brother. Sean Krika, thanks for the 5. If B.O.B. Takes the BC job, is there a chance Sane would follow him? I would be beyond stunned if Julian Sane went to BC. It's just, I mean, you want to talk about like a death spiral? Like going to Boston College is, ugh. No, I think he wants to take the spot right after Will Howard, is what I've been told, and he looks really good. So I'm really excited about Julian Sane. What an amazing coup it was to get him and Caleb Downs. My God. I want to send Nick Saban like an edible arrangement or something to his like $80 million house in Jupiter, Florida, and say thank you so much for leaving because we took your 2 best players. Your thoughts on that, Nevada? With Julian saying go to Boston College, there's no way.
I mean, look, you never say never, but no, that sounds really unusual. I mean, I never dreamed that Bill O'Brien would be here at Ohio State more than 2 years, and probably this is a 1 year deal anyway. So, yeah, I'm sure that Julian Sain's kind of viewing it the same way. He came here to play with Ryan Day and with all these great wide receivers in the system. I think Bill was some comfort, and he was the guy that recruited him, but he wanted to get out of Alabama. He was going to go somewhere else. I think the last place he'll go would be to BC, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to be insane to leave J.J. Smith and Brandon Ennis and Carnell Tate. I mean, you'd have to be absolutely crazy. So, you go to BC, man, those guys are going to be, I mean, your top 7 or 8 guys at Ohio State would be the number 1 at BC. And I'm telling you, you want everything to be unfair. You want to have the best receivers, best line, best tight end, everything. Jessica Opel, thank you for the deuce. Appreciate you. What won't the OC job having to face our D daily? That is a great point. But you have to remember, it does make you better. And the best part is that defense is on your team on Saturday. So you don't get to see them on Saturday. You see them during the week. I always liked going against our defense because when I knew that we had like AJ and Bobby and Schlegs and Mike Kudla and Dante Whitner, and that '05 defense was amazing. And I'm just telling you, like, when we played those guys and they would like screw us up, and mind you, like we had Troy Smith and Ted Ginn and Santonio Holmes and Nick Mangold, and these guys are NFL Pro Bowlers, Heisman Trophy winners, first round picks. Gonzo was our slot receiver. Like our offense in '05 was insane. But when we'd have days when they'd screw us up, they'd mess us up because they were really like they put in some new blitzes and some exotic stuff. Like I would be like, man, I cannot wait to see these teams we go against have to block this stuff because this stuff sucks. And like they ran some stuff that was Haycock's first year calling the defense, man, and they were not messing around, man. It was like every day was like the AFC Championship game, like every single week. It was like the Super Bowl, and I was like, I can't wait to see the other people do it because that's going to be amazing. Jojo 4312, thanks for the deuce. Would you want Bill back after this? Well, he hasn't left yet. I mean, I'm sure he's talking, and that's part of when you hire Bill O'Brien is that that he's going to be in demand. I mean, he's been. If you look where he's been. I mean, he's been at, Bama, NFL head coach, Penn State, Patriots. Like, I mean, he's not like scraping the bottom barrel jobs, that's why I was so surprised about the BC thing. Now, I know he's from Boston, so that's the one kind of curveball in the whole equation. But I'm just telling you, like, I don't know why you'd leave this offense when you could, stay here for a year and then you could get offered, like the Florida Gator job or like a real job or, like, and I'm just being facetious. I'm just throwing teams out there, but there's way better jobs than Boston College that he could be up for in a year if he kind of revitalizes his star. Because the offense in New England was terrible. I mean, they're like 30th in the league, so he's a Boston guy. But I feel like you'd be settling if you went to BC. But that's just my opinion. Nevada, would you welcome Bill O'Brien back after this?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, he hasn't gone.
He hasn't left. Like, yeah, I mean,
he hasn't left. He hasn't left. So no, I would in a minute. And he's in demand. The flirtations are real, but he hasn't left. But that was baked into the cake when he came here. This was going to be a 1-year deal. This is going to be a 2-year. This was going to be a short-term relationship. This was not going to be a forever love, and that's okay. Sometimes short-term relationships are some of the most rewarding. And hopefully he gets rejected. They go without Washington as a cheaper, more economical thing, and he comes back and gets after it tomorrow in the Woody Hayes, and we go on from here.
With a nice clean desk, very clean.
With a nice clean desk.
Gio did it. What is up, brother? Appreciate you. Thank you for the 6. I don't know if I've ever had a 6 before. Here's a name that's a wild card, Chris Caton. He's just as good of an offensive mind as there is in the MAC. Plus, Eastern at Michigan is not a job. Hey, I'm telling you, I think if you offered the offensive coordinator job at Ohio State to any MAC head coach, they would be on the first thing smoking out of the facility to come down here. I mean, they wouldn't even clean their desk out. They'd leave the photo behind of the wife and the 3 kids or whatever, and they'd be rolling to get here. But again, I think that Ryan, if Bill O'Brien does take off, Ryan's going to weigh this out and make sure that he's diligent. And, I don't know if he's going to put like a 2-year deal in writing or whatever, but that's kind of going to be, something he's going to expect. But again, coaching is just such a fluid gig. like again, when we hired Jeff Halfley, nobody was like, oh my God, what are we gonna do when we lose Jeff Halfley? And he left after 1 year, which again, in coaching, that's kind of a no-no, especially when you come to a big place like Ohio State. Like generally, they want a 2-year commitment. Urban Meyer was huge on a 2-year commitment. He wanted, again, he doesn't want to be turning every coach over every single year. But, again, if you don't perform, I mean, Urban Meyer could fire you after years, so could Ryan Day. So I don't know. It's going to be really fascinating to see these next 24 to 48 hours, which again, that's why you should be on BuckeyeScoop.com, because we'll be on this, because we won't go till 7 tomorrow night. So if something breaks during the day, we'll be all over it on there. Nevada, is gaining Halfley worth losing Bob? Papa Sean, thanks for the deuce. Is gaining Halfley worth losing Bob? I don't know
Packers
how.
fan. As a Packers fan.
Yeah.
So I'm gaining Halfley. Is it worth losing Bob? No, because I tell you, my Ohio State love is bigger than my Packer love. It is.
No.
Like, I'm an Ohio State fanatic. I'm a Packer fan, but I'm an Ohio State fanatic. So no, not worth it. The way I would view it, if it did go down, is that Halfley screwed us again, and I'd be mad at him. But no, I think. Like I said, I hope it's much ado about nothing. I hope it gets resolved in a way that's favorable to Ohio State. And though I do think Halfley's going to turn out to be a terrific DC at Green Bay. Hopefully they go with a more economical coach than Bill O'Brien. Hopefully it falls apart for whatever reason. And as you said, he stays on, goes into his new clean desk, and just takes over this Ferrari of an offense he's got ready to go in 2024 and puts up big numbers.
Oh, see, I love this show because of stuff like this. This is hilarious, and this is great. This is why I really love getting to know you guys. So some of you guys send me direct messages on Instagram or on BuckeyeScoop.com. Speedman606, thanks for the 5. Hey, Kirk and Nevadabuck, can you give a quick shout out to my beautiful wife, Annie? Hi, Annie. I hope you're having a nice night as she catches her first live show, The Scoop Rocks OH. Come on, Nevada.
I-O.
Attaboy, with some gusto. But no, I love asking you people, who are you watching this with? Because, like, again, I'm finding out, like, it's like families are watching it. The Sopranos is over. Game of Thrones is over. Like, Sunday night, like, I mean, we're going. We don't stop. But I just appreciate you guys so much. That's awesome. I hope you're enjoying it, and we try to bring some entertainment value. We love, again, this is the best part of our day. We talk about it all day. What are we going to do? And when we haven't even gotten to the 5-star yet, but we get a 5-star, then the Bill O'Brien news that we're literally running to the show, checking our phones, getting text messages and updates. I mean, it's nuts. But I appreciate you. I hope you guys are having a good time tonight. And that is a strong marriage right there, let me tell you. So I appreciate you. TG Buckeye 10, thank you for the 10. Orlando episode was great. He was one of the first people my dad met in business class at Ohio State. Always teased him for being too skinny, and they switched diets. Laugh out loud. Also saved my pops once from a bar fight. He is the GOAT. Well, I'm telling you, Orlando was my idol as a kid, so it's kind of fun that I get to interview him now. But he is the GOAT. He's the best player in Ohio State history. Such a great guy, great father, great husband. Obviously the best player in school history. Canton, I mean, he's in every Hall of Fame known to man. He has all-century team. But just a fantastic human being. And again, I love Orlando, so it's hard for me to not go over the top, but he is the absolute best. Ohio 7715, what's up, brother? Appreciate you. We were texting all day today, so I'm glad you were able to jump on the show. I'm glad you're not sick of me. Thank you for the 50. Thank you for being a Scoop Ultra member, my friend. I appreciate you. Remember when everyone stayed instead of going to the NFL? And we got Downs, Howard, Judkins, Seth, and Sane. And remember when we got our killer 2024 class and our killer 2025 class so far? I like our odds if Bob stays and if he goes. Nevada, OH.
I-O.
See, that's where I'm at. See, that's the kind of positivity I need, because I'm like, we still, even if Bob leaves, I don't even care. Give me the play sheet. I'll go run the game. It ain't that hard. I mean, when you've got talent like that, I can get these guys open. I can get a Mecca open. Like, come on. That's the spirit, though. I'm telling you, because, like, we're still, like, loaded for bear. And, like, again, if someone wants to jump off this ship now, they're insane. I'm just telling you, like, these kids that, like, look at the portal and leaving or whatever, I'm like, dude, like, I would want to hang out and get me a ring, because I mean this is a team. This is like that 05 team, the 15 team, and this is one of those teams where in the preseason this team has a chance to do something crazy good. And again, I think that this team's locked in, and I think that They know it's at stake and they're hungry, and I'm excited about it. Brandon J, thank you for the 5. Is there a chance Ryan told him, pack your office if you're not 100% here? I would not want a guy with 1 foot out in and 1 out. I say move on. I don't think so, just because, Ryan, I mean, he's a big boy. He gets what's going on. I mean, he's been around the block and he was in the NFL and he knows that guys come and go a lot. I think that guys got to do what's best for their family. I think the biggest thing is, if you're the head duck, if you're Ryan Day, you have to there has to be honesty in the staff. Like, don't let Ryan hear it from some agent that, oh, you're in advanced negotiations with Boston College. Like, make sure that you're honest. Hey, I'm up for this. Something with my son, my family. We're from Boston. Whatever it is, like, just be honest, because I think that's the best policy when you're in this situation. Because Ryan knows. I mean, Bill O'Brien. I mean, he hasn't stayed anywhere for real long. Maybe 4, 5, 6 years tops, which that's not very long in life. But what are your thoughts about it? Do you think that there's a chance Ryan told him to pack his bags and 409 his desk?
No, no, not at all. I think I don't think I know that this is something that Ryan is not desirous of having happen. He wants to retain it. He wants to keep it going. But to your earlier point, look, if it does, we're always honest with you on the show. We'll tell if things are bad, I will tell you they're bad. If things are great, I'll tell you they're great. If they're in between, I'll tell you they're in between. This would be less than optimal to lose Bill O'Brien after 2 weeks, but on a scale of 1 to 100, it'd be about a 0.1 in terms of severity, in terms of affecting our ability to win or compete for the national championship in 2024. You grab another guy. Look, Burt Carton with a pack of cigarettes and some Red Bull could do the job from his basement. He could do this, and I could do it with my 4 Chiweenies. I could have them out there, and we could go out there and coordinate the guys and run up big numbers. So now my concern level on this is at an all-time low compared to all the good things. I mean, it's not even fair to talk about it in the same breath as all the good things, because that stuff is just orders of magnitude more important and more impactful on not only this season but future seasons. This would be a speed bump we'd get through, and we wouldn't even be talking about it in 2 weeks. So whatever happens, and let's just get on with it.
And to be fair, I'd probably smoke a cigar because I've never smoked a cigarette before. But I wouldn't even know what ones to buy. But a cigar for sure. I'd love to do that. Just chew on it while I'm up there because it'd be like having a chew in. Caden Hutchins, thanks for the deuce. Any updates about practice standouts? No practice right now. Just a lot of sled pushing and a lot of bench pressing and squatting. So we'll hopefully get some updates on that in the next week or so. But they are not doing any formal practices right now. But that's like about 4 or 5 weeks away from spring ball, which you'll blink and it'll be here. Chocolate chip. I'm gonna say that's a cookie. Finally made a live stream. Love the scoop. OHIO. Love these names. Oh my god, you guys kill me. one big Buckeye. Thanks for the 5, my man. Everyone mentions Downs, Judkins, and Howard. But with Stover gone, which is a huge loss, I'm hyped for Kaczmarek stepping into the void. He's going to be interesting now. I mean, he's got some skill. I think he's probably a late roundish type guy. But our tight ends generally don't usually lead the team in touches or receptions. But yeah, Cade will definitely be a loss. I thought Cade had a great career at Ohio State. But, I think that this kid, he's got talent, and, Keenan Bailey's got to step up. I'm just saying, like, Keenan Bailey, you got Jelani Thurman in that room, man. You got to get him going. You got to get him developed. You got to get him turned up and make sure these guys head on straight, because that's the guy that needs to be the Marmaduke, not Kaczmarek. But you got G. Scott back, who he's fine. But Jelani's the guy that you got to go develop, and then you got a bunch of other young guys, Bennett Christian. I mean, some of these guys got to get rolling because they're getting to year 3, year 4 in the studio, and either you're going to be playing or you're going to be on the process. PJ Studio, thanks for the 20. Thanks for being a Scoop Ultra member. Appreciate you, my brother. Time to anoint Tim Holt. I love this as the original gangster recruiter, going into SEC and taking multiple top players. Is he now the top recruiter on the staff now? That is a great question. Nevada, is Tim Walton the best recruiter on the staff now?
Well, Tim Walton's an interesting story because if you go back in the Wayback Machine a year ago, Tim Walton was on really thin ice, guys. Like, that's not like just hyperbole. Like, he was on the thinnest of ice. And we didn't really understand it because we're like, man, Jalen Ramsey loves this guy. This guy's been effective wherever he's been. He should be better at this. And Tim, then, Davison kind of wanders into his life. They go. He gets him a steak and lobster, and he pulls that gigantic recruit from Ole Miss to come to Ohio State against all odds. And all of a sudden, Tim's become Super Tim, and it's like he can't be beaten now. And so, to me, it's one of the more amazing things that I've seen at Ohio State because, man, he was 1 foot out the door. He was 1 foot out the door, and I'm not sure Ryan would have even blinked an eye about it. And now, it's one of those, wow, we don't even imagine, we don't want to imagine life without him, but he's certainly on a roll. To have a Hartline on the offensive side and a Walton on the defensive side, like you said, it's going to be, we're putting together the all-time greatest 7-on-7 team. And you add, if Laurinaitis becomes the 10th coach, you're adding another ace recruiter on top of it. But Ryan said that. Ryan has said, look, my number one objective in terms of putting together the staff is guys that can recruit. And when you look back when Pete Carroll did it, when he was rolling with USC, they just had a team of killer recruiters. I mean, you're looking up and down that staff, and you're looking at Lane Kiffin, Ed Orgeron. I mean, they could all recruit, and they weren't playing around. And I can tell you this: Ryan isn't playing around with it either. Tim Walton is on fire, and we're all the beneficiaries of his unbelievable recruiting right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's funny how, I mean, a year ago, it was a little steamy for Uncle Tim, but he is killing it now. And again, I think that once you build that momentum, it becomes palpable, and it's kind of like snowball rolling down the hill. Because right now, man, these kids have a mentality in modern football where they want to play together in a pack of like wolves that are like really good. And these corners are getting these guys. It's going to be that iron sharpens iron thing where you get another good corner to play with you and get a good safety to play with you. And then it's like, this is going to be really fun to watch us kind of grow and develop and push each other as freshmen. And these guys want to play together, man. So big kudos to him, man, because he is killing it. And he did a great job with Caleb Downs.
BIA.
I think that was,
what is that?
That was a Kerry Combs thing, Best in America.
Best in America. BIA.
I never know like if we should retire that when the coach gets fired or if we should bring it back. Like I don't know. I mean, that was all Kerry Combs. That was his thing. Paul Moss, thank you for the 5. This is a great one. Rate these O-lines, KB, 05, 06, 13, 22, start, bench, and cut. Ooh, this is a really, really, really good one. I mean, I'd have to go. It's really hard for me to cut, one that's got Paris and Dewan at tackle. God, I might have to cut myself on this one. I mean, that 13 line was just dominating because you've got Mewhort, Norwell, Lindsley, Marcus Hall / Elfline, and Taylor Decker. God, that might be the winner, man. I mean, 2022, you got Paris, obviously, who's great. Dewan, who's great. Then you've got Donnie Jackson, Matt Jones, Whippler, all great. Really good players. 05, 06 was my sophomore year. So, yeah, Doug Dadish at left tackle, who was a 5th-round draft pick. You got Rob Sims, who played like 9 years in the league, was a 3rd-round draft pick. Nick Mangold was a 1st-round draft pick. TJ Downing did not get drafted. And then I was a 7th-round pick. But, I was an All-American. There's a lot of really good talent. This is tough. I go probably 13 to start, and then I'd bench 22, and I'd probably cut me. But I don't know, man. I mean, we had Nick Mangold and Rob Sims in the middle. It's pretty good. Plus, we played a Texas team that was number 1 in the country. And we played some really good teams. It's hard for me to cut the Paris and Dewan one, but I might cut them, and then we'll be the bench one. But 13 is the best one by far, just because Corey Lindsley was the highest paid center in the NFL. Norrell was the highest paid guard in the NFL. Taylor went 1st round. Jack went 2nd round. But we'll see. I mean, again, the hardest part about the 22 one is Donnie hasn't been drafted yet, so we'll see where he goes. Matt Jones has got a chance to get drafted. He's a 6-year guy, which that kills him because he's like 24 years old in the draft. And then Luke started a couple games for the Browns this year, and kind of at the end of the season when they were resting guys. So, but no, that's a fantastic question. So I appreciate you, Paul, and way to be a great historian. That's a great one. Chocolate chip cookie. Again, I can't say that. The Bob situation doesn't make much sense for either party, right? Does BC really want Bob for a year or two? Wouldn't you rather be at Ohio State for a year or two? Well, I think with Bob, he's got a chance to, he'd make obviously more money as a head coach than what as a coordinator. But I just don't think the opportunity's right there. I mean, that's what I keep saying is like, why not stay at Ohio State for at least a year and drive this high powered, Lamborghini versus going to BC where it's just like, you got to go play Florida State. You got to go play like some real teams. Like it's just a tough job. I mean, again, like I would just be like, why would Jeff Halfley want to leave? Oh, probably because he's going to get fired because they're 7-6 and not really trending the right way. Your thoughts, Nevada, on BC for a year versus Ohio State? Because I just think if you're gonna say what's your best opportunity to jump to like to a higher level, it's Ohio State for sure.
Well, I mean, I think that's the whole thing that makes this so fascinating and so confusing is, do we really look at this as like this is his forever job? This is like I've always dreamed of coaching at BC. I want to be here for the next 20 years. It's close to home. It's close to the best hospitals, my wife's family, whatever. That's where I want to be. I've just never really associated Bill O'Brien with that, and maybe that's a bad read on my part. I've always thought that he, want to get back to being an NFL head coach or be a place where he could compete for national championships. But we'll see. Could be much ado about nothing. He just could be a clean freak. Sometimes I'll go down to my kitchen and I'll just start cleaning. I will. I'll clean for no reason. And like my wife or kids will come in and be like, "Dad, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm just cleaning stuff up right now." They're like, "What? We have people coming over," and I'm like, "No, I'm just cleaning." So that could be what Bill O'Brien was doing today. So shame on you, Burt Carton, for thinking the worst about him. He could just be a clean freak.
Yeah, on a Sunday, yeah, that means that you have nothing else to do in the world. I mean, there's no football on or anything, so yeah, it's the tough part of the year where the football's done until August in terms of the games. Christopher Rich, thank you for the 5. Whatever happened to Ryan Hamby, and what conversations did teammates have with him after he dropped that TD versus Texas? This is another great question. Ryan didn't get drafted. I think it was with the Bills, or not the Bills, the Bengals for like rookie minicamp. I mean, he's a Cincinnati guy. I think they gave him a tryout and he didn't make it. Ryan had a weird career because like after that, none of you guys remember this, but he had blood clots. So his career got ended his season got ended like maybe a week or two after that. So because by the end of the 2005, like Marcel Frost was starting at tight end, and Ryan was done. Obviously, that was a tough play. I mean, it was one of those ones where there's some plays in your life you vividly like remember it because I was literally right. It was right in front of me. I was the right tackle, pass blocking. I see the ball kind of sail over my head, and I see it go right into his chest. And again, like the hard part is like that's at the closed end of the stadium, so you see the fans just go ballistic. Like I mean, how you guys are. You guys have been to a game in person, or a sporting event in person. When you see like something like that, everybody goes like this, goes crazy, and so I'm just like, we scored, and then like ball goes flying up in the air, and Hamby gets drilled, and I don't think I've ever seen another play like that, but it happened, and obviously he feels terrible because he dropped the ball twice, and it probably cost us the national championship, but it's fine. I mean, but that's what I tell you guys every time we talk, and when we talk about these games, when you play equal talent, because Texas was the team that won the national championship. And we blew that game. I mean, on offense, we blew the game. We sucked. And we had to kick 5 field goals. It was embarrassing. So, those are the ones that haunt you because that was a team that should have won a national championship. But we blew the game. So it's not all on Ryan. We lose as a unit. But our defense was balling that night. A.J. Hawk played maybe the best game I've ever seen a defensive player play. I mean, they couldn't do more than they did. And it's like I still hate that I have to talk about that because – we let those guys down. Those guys deserve to be national champions, but for whatever reason, like we just weren't good enough. That's a great question, though. Nevada, were you at that game?
Yeah, no, I was at that game. That was one of the more when we left the game. It was like I'd never heard a big crowd being that quiet before, just kind of filing out of there. And I always thought on that play with Hamby that I know you were on the field, so I'm not gonna. But I thought he got screened a little bit by the ref. I thought the ref kind of got in his way, just distracted him on that.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
So And I think, people don't say, if you go back and watch that play, like the ref, I mean, I'm not acquitting him on that. He's kind of the Jack Dundee from Best of Times in terms of dropping the ball. I'm sure he wants to get that game back. Dr. Death and Johnny Utah, all those guys back there, play the game one more time. But I think the ref kind of distracted him, and so I think he gets a bad rap. But that was a tough one for all of us.
Oh God, yeah, it's like that's like one of those. I tell people, man, when you play football at Ohio State, people will remember you for the biggest play that you have or the biggest game. Or so if you have a bat, if you're Joe Bowser missed that Nebraska game, if it's whatever, I mean, they remember like your biggest moment, and that can be good or bad. And so for Hamby, I mean, that's everywhere he goes till the end of time, because that's just kind of how it is. I mean, again, like you don't wish that on anybody, but that's just kind of how it works. Great question though, Paul. Appreciate that. Poohbeard12, thank you for the 10. Thank you, Scoop Ultra member again. Proud shows this commentary on our insane wide receiver DB recruiting. I got it. Like with Walton and Hartline, I totally get that. If Bob needs to leave for family reasons and his contributions were to get convincing data to take sane, then good luck and thank you very much. I totally agree. Again, we his son is severely handicapped. He's 21 years old. So again, they're in those shoes. So again, I don't, I've got kids, and so whatever you got to do to take care of your family and kids, I don't fault any man for doing that. So I think that's a great way to look at things, and I appreciate you for that. Speedman 606, thanks for the 5. Totally surprised my wife with the chat. Thank you guys so much. It is such a pleasure posting when the proceeds benefit my fellow veterans. Semper Fi. I love that. Yeah, again, the Pay It Forward Fund. So when you guys do these chats, we put it into our Pay It Forward Fund, and we give out basically we prepay for our memberships to BuckeyeScoop.com, our message board that we're on all day. So it's been gangbusters. It's been awesome. So we really appreciate you guys supporting the troops and our veterans. Again, my father-in-law is a Navy guy, huge Navy guy. I love the Navy just because he's so proud of serving. Nevada was obviously a guy that was, an Army brat, Nevada. You actually Air Force. Go ahead. You can explain it while you're on here. There you go.
Air Force brat. Yeah. Air Force brat.
So it's, I mean, the military, like for us, like the military and the police are, those are our people. Cause we've given them out to police officers too. Cause, we stand with cops cause it's a tough job nowadays. Sean Rawlings, thank you for the 20. Appreciate you, man. Thank you for being a Scoop Ultra member as well. Speedman 606, thanks for the deuce. Hoping to make it to Yogi's Friday. Will you be there? I don't know. I've got a lot of work to get done. I was doing some stuff this past week, and I've got to make a trip up to Defiance, I believe, next week. You know who I'm talking to. Appreciate you, my man. Shout out Buffalo Wild Wings. But I'll let you guys know. I mean, the good thing about us is like we're easy to find, and we podcast literally every single night, so I can give you a little bit more intel as we get a little closer. Well, Nevada, you want to talk a little Naheem Alford real quick, and we will wrap this thing up. So we get Naheem Alford, and this kid is a absolute monster. Number one player in the country at cornerback, 6'1", 185, tough as nails, physical as can be. Tim Walton just absolutely killing the game. And thank God Nick Saban is gone, because I don't think we've ever had this many inroads in the state of Alabama, but he's from Birmingham. And for those of you that have been to Birmingham, Birmingham is actually awesome. I worked there for a few years. I had a home office down there, so I was down there a lot, and it's really a beautiful city. So he's a Birmingham kid. Nice airport too to get to Columbus, fly through Baltimore. But your thoughts on Naheem Alford? I'm gonna flip over and get his tape on real quick so we can take a watch at it.
Well, one of our top insiders, maybe our top insider, the helping technician, had been texting me over the weekend saying, things are looking good. And, so he calls this morning. He's like, I think we got him. I'm like, well, put that on the board. So we went out, put it on the board, and about 45 minutes later, they announce the Hayes Fawcett edit comes out. But he had made the point that when Alford came out, he brought his whole family. And you see the picture. I mean, it was a business trip for him. He was coming out. You've got mom and dad. You've got everybody involved. And I think this is going to be one. I hate to say it about recruiting now and when this tournament, but I think this one actually sticks. And I think this is a great fit for Ohio State and offered, and it's just the foundation for an unbelievable 2025 class. I know Ohio State's excited. I know the family's excited. And everybody around Ohio State and fans should be excited because this is a big one.
No, I totally agree. I'm getting his highlights dialed up. But this kid's all state as a junior, 5-star. Like I think Rival says it's kind of interesting. They call him a 5-star plus. I mean, I just call him a 6-star. He's like a super, super high end kid. Really athletic, really tough. Again, just really excited to see this kid. Shoot, Paul, I apologize. I missed Paul Lewis's question. I apologize, my man. I apologize. These things are kind of coming fast and furious. Paul, thank you for the 20. Appreciate you, my man. With the Big and SEC forming a group, presumably to end the NCAA, can the cheaters up north possibly wiggle out of their penalties? I don't think so, man. I don't think you're getting away from the NCAA that quick. I think that's going to take a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of investment because like the NCAA is a monstrous organization, but we know that there has to be a commissioner of college football. It can't just be this, you know, you got to understand like the NCAA has to regulate like field hockey and synchronized swimming and all these things that aren't college football. Like college football is like the 800-pound gorilla, and everything else is kind of like house cats. So you got to have something that can tame the gorilla, and then you can have the NCAA deal with the house cats. And I think that's what the Big Ten and the SEC are getting at. But your thoughts, Nevada? Is this going to be a way for the cheaters up north to get out of the penalties? I can't see them skating in a million years.
No chance. No, this committee is a long-term planning committee. That's all. It's a committee that's put together to kind of look at the long-term issues facing the inevitable split off from the NCAA. But you're talking about something that's years and years and years down the pike. And the NCAA is going to be adjudicating the Michigan thing here within the next 12 months. So now this will come down. The Michigan thing is going to be handled long before the SEC and the Big Ten kind of split off and the NCAA form the super conference, the big 48 or whatever they want to call it, with teams that are really dedicated to competing at the highest level in college football. But no, Michigan's going to get theirs long before that's ever decided.
Yeah, and this kid's a punt returner too. I love that because that if you're a great punt returner, if you get a pick, man, it's going to the crib. I love that. So I got Paul. I just gotta make sure I get all these. Chris Blunt, thank you for the deuce. News, Marquise Davis, I'm a Heights alum, need him. Good player. He's a good player now. I mean, we got to keep making room and make sure that we can get all these kids. But yeah, he's a kid that needs to come to camp and have a great camp. Paul Lewis, again, I really apologize. I generally do not miss any questions, so I appreciate you super chatting me and let me know. Thank you for the 50. Again, appreciate you guys supporting us and supporting Pay It Forward. But again, I just, I apologize for missing you. And thank you to Tora, because Tora came storming in with a 10 spot to let me know. Again, that's why Tora is the man. Thank God for you, Tora, because you helped me. Because again, this is, we got a lot of super chats tonight, and we appreciate you guys helping out the veterans with our Pay It Forward program. Doreen, she's the best. So I actually met Doreen at Zach Smith's day at Yogi's. It was a couple Fridays ago. It was the Friday. Was it the Friday? It was the Friday of the Cotton Bowl, I believe. Maybe it was that night. But yeah, we met. We said hi. Thanks for the 10. Great show, Kirk in Nevada. Glad to catch y'all live. Love seeing Menace crew on here. Mellow and chocolate chip cookie, to name a few. Glad I found the show. Go Bucks. Appreciate Doreen. And again, this is a little thing that Doreen does that is actually awesome. If you guys are on X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it, she loves retweeting our podcast. So that helps spread the word of when we do our audio format. So thank you so much for doing that. That's a huge help, especially for some of you, like you super fans have these big followings. So that's always awesome. And again, the support of spreading the show is very noticeable because it's been growing like absolute crazy since November. So we appreciate you guys. Treasure the Torah, my man, you're the absolute best. Thank you for being Scoop Ultra, for being the wrench, for being for the 10. Paul Lewis had a question. So, dude, you're the best, man. I appreciate that. Plus people want me to talk about Florida State coming to the Big Ten. Nevada, do you have any more news on the Florida State Big Ten deal? Because I would love that. That'd be the greatest thing ever. But would love your thoughts on that.
That's going to happen. That's going to happen,
Oh,
and the entire ACC is on sale, and they're
yeah.
imploding. Their grant of rights is going to be disintegrated. It's going to be subject to some financial penalties to get out of it. But it was signed under some really weird. When the whole story comes out on the ACC grant of rights, people are going to just. I don't want to say stuff that's not 100% accurate, but the stuff that I've heard is absolutely crazy. It's hard for me to believe that big time schools in the modern era, you're not talking about like the 1860s or something, could
No.
sign a contract. I mean, this is like trading Long Island with Peter Stuyvesant for like $16 worth of beads or something like that. I mean, it's a weird one. It's a real. I'm telling you, the ACC story on the grant of rights is absolutely bizarre, and I don't know what they were thinking or how they got away with it. But I don't believe it can stand legal muster, and I think that's eventually going to be the undoing of the ACC. And when that happens, Florida State first stop Big Ten. Mark that down. Done. Finished. Over. Going to happen.
Yeah, that'll be incredible. Um, God, Nevada, should we break down that Hamby play tomorrow? Remember we were gonna
Let's
do
do
that.
that.
We were gonna break that down because I remember I watched it with you, and I remember saying, "Oh my God, he did get screened by the referee. He did like that.
Yeah.
That obstruction costed him." Because I remember, I was like, "I bet nobody's ever seen this before." Yeah, so I'm gonna have to dig that up. It's somewhere in my film archive. So tomorrow, just remind me in the chat, all you guys that are in here, that you want me to break down that Hamby play. 'Cause I remember we were watching the coach's tape, and it's a way different perspective. It's a lot closer than like a television copy that's generally just the side. But yeah, that happened. I remember that, and I was like, "Ooh, God, is that bad?" So yeah, I'll dig around for that. Well, this has been a great show. I think we got all of our super chats done. Nevada, you want to wrap this thing up? Any final thoughts on today? 5-star and Bill O'Brien has been a wild one.
Yeah, great day. I'm going down to my kitchen right now for no apparent reason, and I'm going to clean. I'm just going to clean
You
for like
should,
the next
yeah.
30 minutes, and I'm just going to completely freak out my family because they're not going to know what I'm up to. But I'm going to be cleaning in honor of Bill O'Brien, and hopefully, it has a similar effect, and we bring Bill home. And you guys can help out. We have a patron fairy of the show, Tinkerbuck, and if we want good things to happen, you'll hit the like button. So if you want to bring Bill O'Brien back to life and bring him back to
Oh
Ohio
God,
State, you'll hit that
Tinkerbuck.
like button. But so if you don't hit the like button and we don't get Bill O'Brien back, you have nobody to blame but yourself. Okay,
Oh my
so
God.
hit that like button on your way out and bring back Tinkerbuck, save him and save Bill and bring him back to Ohio State as well. Thank
Oh
you.
God, I love that. That's
IO.
amazing. IO, there you go. One last IO as we wrap the show up. Appreciate you guys kicking with us. As always, you guys are the best. Again, appreciate all you guys are doing to support the channel, helping us out. The show is a great show because you guys make it a great show. So thank you guys for kicking it with us each and every night. We're bringing the heat. Again, we put a lot of work into this thing because we want it to be a good quality product for you guys. And we're just very happy that you guys enjoy it. And we get great reviews. It's been awesome. Keep spreading the good word. If you enjoy the content, if you can leave a like, that is huge for us. Also, click subscribe if you guys have not subscribed yet. Send it to your friends. Tell them to subscribe. Keep growing this for us. We're getting close to 30,000, so it is growing really quick. And also, for those of you guys that like these live shows, man, make sure you click the little alert bell on our page. You get a little alert on your phone when we go live, generally around 7 o'clock. But things can change if there's a game on or something. But at this point, it's going to be pretty steady 7 going forward. So we appreciate you guys. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Again, thank you for the support. Shout out where you guys are watching from, and shout out who you guys are watching with. Again, I love seeing the families watching it. It's cool. Father, daughter, son, whatever dynamic it is. We're a family show, and we just really appreciate all the support. So I'm glad you guys are enjoying it together as a family. Again, I think it's just awesome. So thank you so much. And also, just have a great night. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. We're going to talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a great night. Go Bucks.